The top stories: Japan expresses commitment to helping reduce inflation in Ethiopia. And floods in central Somalia displace thousands of families. Hello and welcome to ETV News. With the news, I'm Shifarao Lako. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Foreign Minister Demeka Mekonnen met with the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Molly Fee. The two sides have exchanged views on bilateral and regional issues of common concern, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Demeka has briefed the Assistant Secretary about the expedited implementation of the Pretoria Peace Agreement. Meanwhile, the Assistant Secretary has welcomed the peace agreement, the process to implement it, and expressed her country's commitment to supporting it. Discussing regional issues, particularly those in Sudan, Demeka added that the peace process should be Sudanese-owned and proliferation of parallel efforts will exasperate the problem. The Ministry of Planning and Development announces plans to conduct the fourth round of population and housing census during the next 3 years. The census, which has been repeatedly extended from the time it was supposed to be held, has been included in the government's development and investment plan for 2023-2024 Ethiopian fiscal year. This was disclosed when the ministry tabled its 9-month performance to the House of People's Representatives. Shagamato presents the following story as follows.
After presenting the 9-month performance of the 2022 and 2023 Ethiopian fiscal year, the Minister of Planning and Development Fitsum Asafa replied to the questions from the members of the House and the Permanent Committee on Planning, Budget and Finance. The Minister reiterated that population census has been extended for a whole lot of reasons, which it should have been held long time ago, she says.
The other question is regarding population census that kept being extended due to multiple problems encountered nationwide. And as per the constitution referred to it, the census should have been conducted long time ago. Technical preparations were finalized, but in making it as per given international standards, some constraints were faced.
Fitsum went on saying that paying better attention to the government's investment plan, the census will be conducted in less than 3 years' time.
Following security-related issues in certain areas, we're only waiting for the situation to get better to conduct our work. In the coming 3 consecutive years, paying better attention to the government's investment and development plan. It is being planned by the Ethiopian Statistics Agency, including population and other farming census will be conducted, since it has already taken a long time by now.
Questions related to national development benefits and fair distribution of infrastructure, delays in existing and new projects, population and housing census, and the National 10-Year Development Plan were raised and responses were offered as well.
The Ethiopian Policy Research Institute unveils new study on the amendments of the Ethiopian Constitution. The new study includes controversial issues included in the Constitution. It was disclosed. Johannes Fantaun presents the story as follows.
Ethiopia has a very little experience with the written constitution in spite of its long history of state formation. For this reason, the first form of written constitution promulgated in Ethiopia in 1931. And this, the first ever written constitution, was amended in 1955 and served until 1987, the time when the so-called Derg military government took power. After the fall of the military regime, the EPRDF government has incorporated a new constitution in 1995. It is believed that this constitution, which has been in operation for about 3 decades, has different receptions among the citizens of the country. As a result, there have been various questions about the amendment of this constitution, and the country's Policy Research Institute has conducted a study to find a starting point for amending the provisions related to nations where the question of amendment is raised in the constitution and it has been discussed with stakeholders. Presenting his initial research paper at the forum, the Director General of the Ethiopian Policy Research Institute, Professor Beyene Petros, mentioned that the constitution has been debatable since it was drafted.
The Constitution of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia has been a source of controversy and debate since its drafting and approval. The debate has been highlighted by politicians, intellectuals, and recently social activists. But the debate has also spread through the lower part of the society.
The Ethiopian Policy Research Institute has stated that for the past 2 years it has conducted a reform study on the controversial articles of the Constitution, especially the provisions related to ethnicity in all regions except Tigray. State Minister of the Minister of Peace must express different ways in which the provisions of the Constitution will be amended.
The importance of this study is that it points out the directions of solutions by studying the questions and issues that are the origin of the controversy in a scientific way by the scholars of the field.
The forum was attended by policy experts, heads of human rights institutions, ministers of states and senior government officials, including the Deputy Speaker of the Federation of Council.
The lower Omo Valley is an ancient land where people continue to live in contact with nature and far from modernity, where light and darkness dictate the pace of life.
I think the
people of Omo Valley, they are untouched people and they have strong norms to keep their own culture, customs, whatever the norms. That's the way I think, even I'm worrying about even to maybe tourism getting to spoil them.
Loro venendo in contatto con noi.
In big towns now, it's global. Everybody has information through Facebook, through internet, so they are dreaming, their mind is everywhere. But here, wake up in the morning, taking coffee, walking with a goat to the field, coming back here, it's very easy.
The lower Omo Valley may seem like a faraway land, but there's much to be learned from its inhabitants. We can't but admire their resilience, sense of community, and profound respect for nature. The Kara, Dasanich, Hamer, Arbore, Mursi, and all the other Omo tribes haven't lost their deep connection to what is real, what is tangible on this planet.
Welcome back. Now, the Japanese government has handed over 5,700 metric tons of rice to Ethiopia. This grant is hoped to help reduce the soaring inflation in the country's economy. Kasan Chane reports.
This grant aid is worth roughly 5.5 million United States dollars, or equivalent to 300 million Ethiopian baht. Speaking on the occasion, State Minister for Finance Emerita Swaso underlined that this food aid assistance from the government of Japan to Ethiopia is crucial for improving the impact of economic work on the nation.
it is a friendly gesture. The Japanese government has donated an amount of 5,700 metric tons, equivalent to 300 million Ethiopian birr of rice, to Ethiopia. In recent years, global climate change has led to frequent extreme weather, and Ethiopia has suffered extreme climate disasters such as flood, recurring drought, and severe land degradation that has been exacerbated by internal conflict and local locust infestations. This project aims at curbing the food and nutrition security challenge in our country by contributing to the increase in the availability of cereals in the market and addressing the growing demand of rice. The long-standing economic cooperation between Ethiopia and Japan has formally commenced in the early 70s with a vision of shared, strong partnership. Since then, the government of Japan has been extending its official development assistance to Ethiopia through different modalities, and this includes long-term schemes that focus on development support from Japan on infrastructure development, agricultural productivity, human capacity development, as well as private sector development.
Japanese ambassador to Ethiopia said for her part that the government of Japan has actively supported development endeavors in Ethiopia and contributed to the improvement of people's lives through various schemes.
Today, we are handing over approximately 5,700 metric tons of Japanese rice, which is worth 5.5 million US dollars or approximately 300 million Ethiopian birr. Ethiopia has been going through a difficult time securing food due to various factors, including the large number of IDPs and refugees within the country, severe drought and floods, and so forth. However, food security is a concern not only for Ethiopia, but it has now become one of the largest global challenges. Soaring energy and food prices, climate change, biodiversity loss, and armed conflicts, especially Russia's war of aggression, have disrupted global food systems, including food production as well as fertilizer and energy supply chains, and exacerbated food insecurity and worsened malnutrition, particularly in Africa and Middle East.
According to the ambassador, this Japanese rice was shipped to Ethiopia as part of the Japanese food assistance program to increase food supplies and stabilize market prices in a country where they are under threat from IDPs, drought and floods. It is to be recalled that Japan reaffirmed its commitment to helping African nations achieve food security during the 8th Tokyo International Conference on African Development held in Tunis in August last year.
Now, the Ethiopian electric utility has allocated 26 billion birr to address power outage across the nation. Utility CEO Shifarao Talela said his company has been undertaking restoration and reconstruction of power facilities nationwide with a view to alleviating power outage in several parts of the country. Maintenance is being carried out in Addis Ababa with a budget of 10 billion birr, focusing on power line feeders in the capital, he said. The CEO explained that old wooden utility poles are being replaced by concrete ones, and high-capacity conductors are installed as part of the renovation work in different parts of the country. He further revealed that inspection and repair work is being carried out on high-voltage power transmission lines to prevent power outage that occurs particularly during the Ethiopian rainy seasons.
The agri sector is one of the leading sectors that contribute to huge foreign currency that supports Ethiopia.
We apologize for the technical glitch there. Moving on, the Deputy Director of Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Institute says Ethiopia is in the right track in transforming its agricultural sector. Although plagued by periodic drought and soil degradation, agriculture is the country's most promising resource. It was disclosed. Habtam Ashagre takes it from here.
The agri-sector is one of the leading sectors that contributes huge foreign currency that supports Ethiopia's economy. Talking to ETV English program, Deputy Director General of Ethiopian Agriculture Transformation Institute, Yifru Tafasa, said Ethiopia is in the right track in transforming the agri-sector.
We are on the right path towards transforming the agricultural sector, viewed from the point of view of the agricultural production and productivity. For example, the agricultural mahar production alone has exceeded over 400 million quintals. But if you see 20 years ago, it was almost half of this volume. So there are really significant changes in the agricultural sector.
According to the Deputy Director General, the agri-sector is driving and backbone of the nation's GDP. The agri-sector in Ethiopia is showing promising move over the past 2 decades in terms of productivity, Tafas underline.
Agriculture has been always the driving force in the economic development of the country. Still, it's really the backbone of the economy, which employs over 70% of the labor force, generating over 80% of the foreign currency. So it's really an important economic sector. But if you see its growth in the past 15 years, 20 years, there has been really tremendous changes. For example, in terms of productivity, if you see by commodities, there are almost double growth since the past 20 years. So there has been really tremendous growth.
Despite successful achievements, corrective measures are needed to curb challenges which affect the agri-sector.
However, there are a number of challenges. We need to see the context in a broader sense, where you have to bring in the population growth, you have to bring in drought, you have to factor in urbanization. So you have to factor in the resource allocation to the sector. So if you see all these factors, these are all really systemic issues that somehow affect the growth of the agricultural sector.
Providing necessary agricultural inputs as well as technical assistance to the small-scale farmers are needed to boost the agri-sector.
And now in business, Ethiopia has signed a $10 million grant agreement with the Korean International Cooperation Agency, KOICA. The purpose of the grant agreement is to help improve dairy product in Ethiopia through strengthening the subsector's value chain actors for the next 6 years. The grant agreement was signed by the State Minister for Finance and the Country Director of KOICA's Ethiopia office. Now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says the One Africa Expo 2023, a 10-day high-level business expo, will be instrumental in strengthening the economic integration among African countries. The ministry, jointly with members of One Africa Expo, gave a press conference yesterday on the preparation of the expo, which will be held at the Ethiopian Museum of Art and Science Center as of the 20th of May 2023. Director General of the Economic Diplomacy Affairs with the ministry, Abadi Damse, noted that the expo is expected to bring the business communities together and play their role in realizing the goal of the African Agenda 2063. CEO of One Africa Expo, Yalo Getachew, for his part, said the expo will bring together government officials, diplomats, and private sectors from African countries and global partners.
me, how much do you like it here?
I like it here a lot, you know. It's got these little pigeonholes. You can look out. Who's coming? Yeah. Sometimes when you're on buses and traveling around and hassling for taxis, you lose the passion, the love for traveling. But then you come to places like this and you sit down and you're the only ones here. It's really magical.
Welcome back. You're still watching Addis News Hour. Now, floods in central Somalia have left thousands of families displaced, and so far over 210,000 people are reported to have been displaced by the floods. Tigstanisa Zmoronat from Africa News.
Roads and bridges underwater. Flooding in central Somalia has left thousands of families displaced in Ballardwine, the city with the highest population density in the region. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported that more than 460,000 people have been affected.
It was very difficult for me to walk this morning because of the amount of water. I used to be able to walk through it before, but as you can see now, the level has reached my waistline, and this situation is getting worse as the amount of water increases. And just the other night, it was reported that one of my neighbor's house was submerged by water.
Neighborhoods began flooding in April after weeks of downpours forced the river Trabale to burst its banks.
These floods differ greatly from the others in the past. This flood is larger than any flooding in recent memory that has ever occurred in this region. However, given the magnitude of the flood, it must also be remembered that this is the worst flood we have ever experienced. These floods did not result in any fatalities, unlike other floods in the past that have killed people, but they have damaged many properties, including houses.
Rising water levels in Ballardwine forced a number of important facilities to close in the town, including government offices and the town's main hospital.
Well, the viewers, you have been watching Addis News Hour. Now a quick recap of the top stories. Japan expresses commitment to helping reduce inflation in Ethiopia. And floods in central Somalia displaced thousands of families. Well, with that, we come to the end of today's news. Thank you for watching us. Bye-bye.